Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and I made a mistake with the 2018 NFL quarterback analytics. I'm in a lot of data right now. I'm swimming in data. I'm swimming in FBS data. I'm swimming in FCS data. I'm swimming in NFL data. And I'm going to admit I made a mistake. I recently posted the 2018 NFL Draft Analytics quarterback data, and there was a issue processing that. For whatever reason, there was a little mistake in the basically the data that I use, or the software that I use to do the 3-year, basically to do the addition and then score it. That was a little bit off, and that threw everything else off. So, what I'm going to do, just to get the authenticity, the whatever you want to call it, I'm posting all of the data, all of the quarterback data that I have onto draftcoburn.wordpress.com. I'm going to leave a link in the description so you can go there, and all that data will be there for you to look at your leisure. And I'm going to talk, in this video at least, I'm going to talk a little bit about the methodology, because I do know a couple of you guys asked that question. That was something that I probably should have added to that video, to be honest. It was a very long video, and I kind of rambled a little bit on some things. But this one's going to be more straightforward. I'm also going to show you the quarterbacks and how they really scored, at least in terms of the quarterbacks that really did score in the 80 to 90 percentile area, and then go into some of the significance of that. But with all that out of the way, first off, let's start with what the QB score actually is. The quarterback score essentially takes a 10-year, it takes the touchdown to interception ratio of a quarterback and compares it to every single quarterback performance in the FBS based on a 10-year sample. So if a player plays in 2017, he's compared to every single quarterback touchdown reception ratio in the FBS from 2008 to 2017. And then in 2016, that's from 2016 to 2007, and then so on and so forth. So that's basically what the 10-year means. And with all the data that I'm about to show you, that's basically what the 10-year means. Then, of course, you look at the 10-year completion percentage data, which goes into the same framework. And then the strength of schedule data, which of course gives you an idea of the strength of competition. Now, the reason why I use a 10-year sample, which if you've not seen the previous video or you're new to the channel, the reason why I use a 10-year sample is because data changes, statistics change all the time. You could look at the one example I always bring up is Warren Moon. Warren Moon had a 90+ percentile college performance. And if you look at Warren Moon's data, his raw data, at least in his final year, you would go, wow, Warren Moon is terrible. You know, if you compare him to the standards of today. Same thing with Dan Marino, same thing with Joe Montana, same thing with pretty much all the quarterbacks. So you have to use a 10-year sample to kind of give you an idea of comparing what the quarterbacks did in their era, and also to see what the trends are in any given era, which the trends are essentially, which I'll get into a little bit later, the trends are basically common sense. If you're really good in college, you're more likely to be really good in the NFL. That's the basic gist of the data, and I don't think that's really that controversial. But with that out of the way, let's actually get to the quarterbacks that actually did score pretty well based on the data. Now, not a lot has really changed that much, except there is guys that are at the top spot. Baker Mayfield, of course, is the top quarterback. He was probably the one hurt the most. Again, for whatever reason, the software I was using to do the additions was a little bit off, and I had to tweak it and get it back into working order, and it got into back in order. And this is basically the top quarterbacks based on all that data, based on all that methodology up to this point. So really not much of a difference, except for Baker Mayfield being the top quarterback, Ryan Finley being in the 90+ percentile, JT Barrett being in the 90+, Nick Shimonek being in the 90+. Mason Rudolph, Trace McSorley, Josh Rosen, Lamar Jackson, Sam Darnold, Luke Falk. A lot of the guys that I mentioned before are here. There's some guys that weren't here that are here now. But this is basically all the quarterbacks that scored into that 80 to 90 range. Now, I'm not going to get into high school data yet. And like I said before in the previous video, I'm going to be doing individual, once the actual bowl season's over, I'm going to be doing individual data videos about each of these quarterbacks. So an individual video about Baker Mayfield, an individual video about Josh Rosen, etc. But I just wanted to give you this information now because there's really not going to be at that big of a change up to this point. Like, one bowl game is not going to significantly alter the lives of any of these quarterbacks for the most part. If there's a guy that has like an 89 score, he could possibly jump into that 90 area if he has like a really, really good bowl performance. But that's about it. That's the only sort of thing that could really help. So this is basically how things are stacking up right now with all the data. Of course, this pretty much gives you an idea of the touchdown interception ratio, the completion percentage. I add yards per attempt, just yards per attempt to quarterback rating, mainly because people like to see that stuff. Based on all the data work that I've done, yards per attempt is probably the least predictive statistic out of all these statistics. So as much as people really like yards per attempt, it really doesn't matter that much in terms of, you could be a quarterback that has a really good touchdown interception ratio, a really good completion percentage, but a yards per attempt, and still end up being a high-quality NFL quarterback. That's essentially what I'm telling you right now. So even though there is correlations with yards per attempt, I just think it's kind of a weaker data point, and as such, I don't really like to pay attention to it that much. Same thing with adjusted yards per attempt. Quarterback rating is pretty similar to yards per attempt and completion percentage, although yards per attempt and completion percentage are a little bit more, I would say touchdown interception ratio and completion percentage are a little bit more descriptive as to what the issues of a quarterback could have. So like if a quarterback has a kind of meh touchdown interception ratio, that could give you some indications in terms of the decision making possibly being an issue on film. Or if a quarterback has a completion percentage issue, that could give you some idea in terms of a quarterback possibly having issues with touch, accuracy, those types of things kind of factor into that. But again, so far this is the quarterbacks up to this point. Again, I apologize for the mistake that occurred. Again, I am going to be posting the entire data set to draftcobra.wordpress.com just to give you further confirmation of stuff, and also as a way of kind of, backing up the credibility of all the information, because I have posted the stuff in the past, and for some reason I don't know, I didn't do it this time, but I know a lot of you guys are probably interested in that, so I basically post the updated list to draftcobra.wordpress.com. That way you can look at it and pretty much get a feel for all the data. You can scrutinize it, you can criticize it, you can do whatever you want with it. I'm being pretty as open and honest about my process and what I do and all the data that I collect. So definitely check that out as well. And of course, my name is James Coburn. You can find my other work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.